let's just start with the obvious. Apart from looking at the stars, we have no record, oral history or otherwise, that Māori or their forebears ever went into space, ever actually launched a space rocket, never had a satellite. And I think we can, at the risk of being culturally insensitive, probably say that didn't happen. Okay? So there was no great walker in the sky. So that's fine. So Māori really have as much traditional connection to the stars or space, or as much right over space under the Treaty of Waitangi or anything frickin' else as anyone, right? So they haven't been there before. There's not a special relationship. Like every other culture, like every other people, so you look up and you see the stars and you wonder why, right? So let's just wipe that out. And Jenny May Coffin never questioned that in her interview. The other, I guess, and listening to Pauline Hanson, she did sound a little ill, didn't she? Pauline Hanson, the woman who was being interviewed there. And let's just look at Pauline Harris, because Henson, I got that wrong. Ben had a look at it. Who is Pauline Harris, Ben? You had a look at this yesterday.
Pauline, yes, she's on a number of sort of academic research.
She's from Massey University. Amazing. Massey University academic.
Yes. And I think is also on something called the McDermott Institute. She's seems to have started up a few charities under the Māori aeronautics space. Both of which have been deregistered for almost a decade now, over a decade now, one of them for not properly filing returns. So she's clearly been working in this space for a while, but I can't find any reference to any of her team members that might also be on the present Māori working group for aeronautics. So she's the only forward-facing member that I can find.
All right, she is there. Okay. So, and all we know about the working group is that it's Pauline Harris. We couldn't find any record of it online or anywhere or any other member.
You search that name and it doesn't come up with a website or a group or anything like that.
All right. Now, TVNZ, I must say, or she did mention there was some consultation with her so-called Māori Space Working Group or whatever, Aerospace Working Group. She seemed most upset that the strategy had come out without her having approved it. I can tell you my understanding is, and TVNZ was well aware of this, my understanding is that twice this group has been included in consultations on aerospace policy, for what reason I do not know, for over the last 2 or 3 years. They have been consulted, they have been talked to. And indeed, Pauline Harris herself, quite specifically, was given $40,000 to produce a report or a landscape report on Māori in space that was meant to be with MB by June or July this year. And had Pauline Harris produced that report on time in June or July of this year, I'm sure it would have been included and considered as part of the aerospace policy just recently released. But Pauline Harris has taken the $40,000 of your money and there is no sign of the report. Though she mentions, we're still putting the finishing touches to something. Well, who is we, Pauline Harris? And I can't, okay, so I'm just telling you, that's what TVNZ didn't tell you. There had been tons of consultation. There'd been money change hands to Māori aerospace experts, Pauline Harris being one of them, and they had FTD'd on their deadline to provide something that would have been considered as part of the announcement of the government's new aerospace policy. But TVNZ, that didn't suit their narrative. They chose not to quiz Pauline Harris on that. Now, I thought the best way to deal with this latest piece of politically correct madness by TVNZ was to get Pauline Harris on and talk to her about the $40,000, talk to her about the deregistered charities, find out if Māori ever had been in space, and really get into it. And Pauline Harris, to give her a due, was quite happy to come on after 8 o'clock this morning, and we planned to do the interview and discuss these issues with her. She tells us she has developed a very bad cold, which didn't stop her, Ben, contacting you this morning and saying that she had pre-recorded her answers to questions I hadn't even put to her. So how did it roll out this morning, Ben?
Yeah, so they contacted us last night to drop out about 8 or 9 o'clock, quite late.
Don't say they, say Pauline. We don't know if there's a they.
Pauline Harris. Yeah. And this morning sent through what can only be described as her sort of interviewing herself with the questions I provided in the pre-interview, which is just the topics, you know, the broad-facing topics, and suggested that we play that and in space of being interviewed by you.
So she wasn't well enough to be interviewed, but she was well enough to record an interview for herself.
A pre-recorded interview, yeah.
Of her interviewing herself.
Which is not a substitute for a live interview.
No, well, really, Ben?
Not a substitute for a live interview.
Is that right? Thanks. Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Well, I had to inform her that. I thought maybe you would.
Okay, so she was texting you this morning, even though she's very, very ill and too ill to do an interview.
Yeah, and look, if she wants to reschedule or call in this morning, even I've sent her the talkback number. So
all we know about Pauline Harris, she's a Massey University academic. She says she's part of a working group, though we can't find who else is on that working group. She's got at least $40,000 from the government for a report that hasn't been produced in the timeline it was needed. And she's dreadfully unwell, but not too unwell to pre-record herself responding to our interview. Okay, Pauline, you are welcome to ring in. You're welcome to reschedule. If you could tell us where the 40 grand went, and if you could just somehow provide some context to the special relationship Māori have with the stars and what a Māori aerospace industry looks like. Because I think, Pauline, to be honest, a lot of people are looking at this and saying, it's not like the gravy train, it's like the gravy rocket that you might be on. The gravy spaceship. And many, many people commenting on this. I'm also going to say to TVNZ and to Phil O'Sullivan, who's supposedly the head of news or editorial at TVNZ, you cannot do an interview like that without asking questions, without saying where's the $40,000, without highlighting the fact that the story may be complete BS, Phil. And you wonder why your TVNZ overall is losing money and losing credibility. It's because of stories like this. Now, Pauline, I reiterate, you are welcome to join us and discuss this. But I know what I see. And it worries me. And it's so negative when we see people grifting like this. And I think a lot of people will look at this, Pauline, and say this is grifting. And I don't think that does anyone any good. At all. I'm interested in your reaction to what I've told you this morning. There's a lot more information for you to process than there would have been on Breakfast TV with Jenny May Coffin yesterday. That's because we're journalists, not netball players.